Hi all, it's ACDodd here and welcome to another episode of On the Road Tuning with ACDodd, and this time we're down to Southampton. Okay, so here we are down in the Southampton area, and this is Josh's Mini. So lovely little car, sort of a retro racer, Mini Clubman. As you can see, as usual, I'm already set up at this point, so I'm already well into the tuning. Yeah, fantastic little road racer, this one. And to boot, a nice big 1380 engine under the bonnet. So let's have a chat with Josh, the owner, and see what he's called us here for. Okay, so this is Josh. Josh owns this lovely road racing Clubman. What have you called me here for today?
I've called you here today because I was unsure on the engine and it was running a bit rough. I just wanted a check from the man himself. And the needle was wrong, the spark plugs were all sooted up, it just needed a check really, and just from your initial check it's second to none already, so
yes,
highly recommended.
So we're already into the car at the moment. Are there any driving problems when you was driving it? Any flat spots,
it had
things
a little
like
bit of a flat spot, yeah. You sort of put your foot down and it would cough and splutter and then it would clear and then it would run okay, but I was unsure again, so I wanted to get it looked at by the man himself. So.
Okay, all right. So let's have a quick look at the car. I'm already well into the engine on this one, so I've gone through the usual things as people know now. The coil's correct. We've got points ignition on this one. The points are worn but correct. They gap correctly, and the advance curve is actually correct. But we have got a bit of a leak, although it's still currently working at the moment on the vacuum unit. Moving on to the spark plugs, as was already mentioned, they were all sorted out, so we put a new set in there. And now the HIF 44 carburetor, somebody had made a custom needle, it had been rolling roaded, and to be fair, they hadn't done a bad job, but it was just a bit rich for my liking, so we're going to rein that in a bit. We also found that the carb spring was had been stretched out, so we've changed that from the stretched red to a brand new yellow. And the biggest problem with this carburetor was the piston damper was unable to slow the piston rise. So I've had to fit a new LZX 285 damper to slow that down with a quick drop. So yeah, we're well on our way. And now the needle in it, as I say, was a custom modified BDL, which had been done quite well. So no fold flats, it had been polished properly, but just a bit rich for my liking. So we're going to change that for a BBA, and I'm now underway of polishing it. Over to my needle jig. We've got the BBA needle in there, and then I'm reworking the needle to get the fueling somewhere near right at part throttle, so this engine pulls nicely. Okay, so we're finished with the tune-up. This one goes really well. It's nice and smooth. Fueling's nice and constant all the way across the part throttle range, which is really good. Because it's been rolling roaded before, I was able to look at the needle position and the needle at full power point and then replicate that. And actually, I added a little bit of fuel, so it's a little bit richer at the top end than it was. But yeah, this one runs strong. So let's have a word with Josh. Right, Josh, you've been out for a drive. So what do you think?
Oh, completely different car. It's no flat spots and it just feels effortless to drive. You come up to a junction and it just, before it used to cough and splutter and then clear, but now it just revs right up, and highly recommended. Yeah, great stuff.
Excellent. So yeah, more power, nicer to drive.
Yeah, just feels across the board just smoother and effortless, and yeah.
Excellent. So happily recommend this to anybody else?
Yeah, definitely. Get your wallet out.
All right.
No, definitely.
All right, wonderful. Anyway, thanks for calling me down.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, second car of the day, and this is a lovely standard late-ish 998. Lovely little car, this one. Lovely red interior. Very nicely put together. Very nicely looked after. Again, I'm already into this one, so I know what's going on. But nice standard engine, 998. And let's go and talk to the owner. All right, this is Rich, and this is Rich's car. So what have you brought it here today for?
Just brought it down because standard 998, but it's been running a bit flat. Definitely hoping that it can be improved. Usual little magic skills, see what we can get. It was running rough a little bit before, got that slightly fixed. But yeah, just seeing if we can improve the economy as well as the ride, really.
Okay, all right, no problem at all. Has it got any flat spots or any quirks when you drive it?
Definitely on third gear, you can feel a bit of a flat spot when you're trying to accelerate up the hill or something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, let's dig into it and see what we can achieve.
Okay.
Okay, so we've had an initial look. Everything looks cool under here. This is an interesting one because it's got a Ducellier ignition distributor. Sorry. And actually the advance curve's fine, but we have got a split vacuum unit. I don't carry one for the Ducellier, and I don't actually think they're available, so perhaps if someone could comment on that, that would be great, because I certainly don't know where to get these from. But it will mean that we can tune the engine today, but we're going to have to replace that by probably replacing the distributor. In terms of the coil, yeah, right resistance. We've got a ballast ignition system, so this is a 1.5 ohm coil, which is correct. Spark plugs are all good, but the gap was wrong, so I've reduced the gap down to 25 thou. And then we get onto the main culprit today, which is the carburettor. And having already checked the fueling, this is very, very lean up the rev range. So what we're going to do now is look at a needle change and then start adjusting that to get this one spot on. Okay, so we're all done on this one now. Now this is interesting because our carburettor turned in interesting. So when we looked into it, this carburettor is actually off a sort of mid 70s. I think it's an 850. So somebody had changed the carburettor for a fixed jet one at some point, presumably because it was messing about. But it had the wrong needle in it, and that's why it was so lean. And also it turns out that the flow jet in this one, the needle valve in the float chamber, was leaking. So we had a bit of an issue trying to get this one to baseline, but we got there in the end. And I put a new Viton tipped needle valve in the float chamber, and then we changed the needle to an AAE and then polished it in. And sure enough, she goes very, very well. Right, Rich, you've seen me work on it. This one took a bit of time because it was messing about, as you know, with the carburettor. But now we've finished it and you've gone out for a drive. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been great. You notice the difference straight away as soon as I pulled off in first gear, but pretty much throughout the range, everything, there's no flat spots anymore. Yeah, sounds and feels really nice. Definitely worth the money.
Yeah, it's interesting to note the big difference this one made, and obviously what you watched yourself as the fueling was changing on its own. Yeah, you could see the gauge, the lambda reader going up and down. Yeah. And I wasn't even touching it, so you could see that you had worn carb. So by changing that, it made a big difference and stabilised that down. But it's also worth noting that on your one, there's some other issues that we need to fix. So the carburetor is still worn, and the distributor is going to need replacing as well at some point. But for now, at least you've got a car that runs a lot better, more power, more economy, and just nicer to live with. Yeah,
it's been ideal. Thanks very much.
That's all right. And lastly, would you recommend anybody else having this service?
Yeah, I'd recommend anyone. I mean, mine's just a bog standard 998, but the improvement's been massive. I mean, you've mentioned the gremlins that are still going on in there, but even that, you've worked your magic, and it's definitely come up aces, really.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for asking me down.
No, thanks for you. Cheers.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. There's a couple of examples there. One was the standard 998, and that shows you really how well they respond when you tune them up. So a lot of people ask me, is it worth tuning a standard car? Well, absolutely, because standard cars can be just as bad as modified ones. So yeah, always worth having it set up to make sure it runs properly. And as in a previous video there, another example of where a car's been rolling roaded and the setup wasn't quite right, and perhaps people have been modifying things and not necessarily fitting the right components. But yeah, all in all, that was a good day. So as ever, if you need a tune up, then please get in contact via Facebook Messenger. I am very busy this year, so please bear in mind you may have to wait. Anyway, as ever, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.